What up, sir?
Hey, brother.
How are
Happy
you?
quarantine.
What'd you say?
I said happy quarantine to you, brother.
Happy quarantine. Happy quarantine.
No doubt, no doubt.
We're gonna wait for a few people to get on, and we'll start.
All right. And you can't tell if it's Friday or Tuesday no more, man.
You can't. So I just go with today.
Yeah. I just say today and tomorrow now.
Exactly. And yesterday, no doubt.
Right. And then the day after that. Yeah. We talking numbers now. 2 days. 2 days. 3 days.
Appreciate you doing this, man.
Nah, I appreciate you all putting together this format, man. It's dope. I think a lot of folks are looking for good quality content, seeing how brands are activating, considering what we're all going through and dealing with. So, no, I think this is where what you guys are doing.
Oh, great. We appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. This is the fourth one.
This is number 4. Yep.
All right.
I think we'll start in a minute, and then people can just join in.
Okay.
Let us kick off.
All right.
Cool. So everyone, welcome. This is episode 4, Live Nation Urban presents Meet the Founders. I'm your host, Brandon Pankey, and today we have a very, very, very special guest, someone that I truly respect and admire. This is Jason J. Carter. He is the founder of ONEMusic Fest, and this is the Southeast's largest annual urban progressive music festival. Just a phenomenal person. And Jay, thanks for being here today, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the invite.
Of course. So let's just kick off, man. Let's just go with it.
Yep.
So you started ONEMusic Fest in 2010. Started with around 2,500 in attendance, and now, today, it's a multi-day, multi-stage festival with over 50,000 in attendance. Talk to us about that journey from where you started to where you are today.
Well, dating back to the early part of 2000s, I moved to Atlanta from New York. And being from New York, you're just used to just growing up around different types of people, environments, ethnicities, different, economic backgrounds. And then moving to Atlanta, I saw that things were very segmented, as far as how people socialize and party. So in the early 2000s, I started this event called Soul Fusion. And the whole purpose of it was just to kind of fuse people together, all different types of music, all genres of music, all walks of life. But the sole purpose was to bring folks together. Mm-hmm. And this is, mind you, I was in corporate America. I was kind of moonlighting, doing this thing on the side, just because I love to kick it and have a good time and party. But as the brand grew, actually, it started interfering with my professional life.
Okay.
I would go into offices, I would have meetings, and attorneys and paralegals. I was a legal consultant. They would see me come into the office. They'd be like, "Oh shit, Jay Carter, man, I was at your event last week," and my manager's looking at me like, "What is he talking about?" I was like, "Okay, I gotta figure this thing out." Right? So I just made the leap, and I went into creating a brand marketing and production company, an event production company. But for those 8 years or 9 years that we were doing these events and programming for brands and activations for brands and these large scale events, my passion for live music grew. Mm-hmm. Started traveling, going to all of these different festivals, state to state, nation to nation. And the one thing that I didn't see was proper programming of urban culture on stage, right? So when I'm going to the Bonnaroo's or the Coachellas or the Lollapaloozas, I saw a lot of brown faces on stage. I saw a speckle of them in the audience. And I saw these folks that didn't look like me, partying and rejoicing to urban music, hip hop, R&B, and everything in between. But I couldn't find that experience for us. Mm-hmm. Right? And So in 2008, the wheels started turning. I was like, you know, would black folks come out to something like this, right?
Right.
If you got some down south turn up music, if you got some classic New York Wu-Tang style music, if you got some R&B, some funk, some soul, mixed in with like a little alternative rock, would black folks really spend their dollar and come to an experience like this? I couldn't find that in 2007, 2008. Afropunk was really kind of one of the first ones that kind of jumped out there with that format.
Mm-hmm.
However, that audience is very niche to me, right? So, you know, I wanted something where, you know, if you're a granola tree hugger or a dope boy, would still feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Like a space safe for everybody of my hue. So, and I wanted to build that. And so the more research I did, I realized how expensive a motherfucking festival is to put on, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I did large scale events, but when I started doing the numbers and they would go into the 7 digits, I was like, Jesus, you're really putting your neck. It's a lot of risk involved with putting a festival together. So, and the only people I could really find that could kind of mentor me and gear me through and steer me through this thing did not look like me. I could not find black folks that were doing multi-stage urban outdoor festivals. Concerts, promotions, yeah, but not festivals.
Right.
So the cats that I initially talked to that were my lesser hue, they said, if you don't have $2 million to lose, don't do festivals. I was like, dude, I don't have $2 to lose. So,
Right.
but I'm not in the business of failing. So I said, you know what, let me jump out there and try to figure this thing out. Couldn't really raise the kind of capital needed for the first jump. But luckily enough, we were doing some dope brand activations with Vibe, Mini, Heineken, and I kept pitching the idea, and they bit. And some of them bit. They thought it would be a dope activation, and they actually stroked a sponsorship check for the first one. Didn't cover the cost of it by any stretch, but it was enough for me to be like, this is enough to kind of kickstart this thing and see. Let's see what happens. So fast forward, we actually lost money that year, and yeah, but it was enough of an experience. And the feedback that we got from the patrons and everybody that was involved, from the sponsors to the people that was there, even to the artists, it was like, oh, this is dope. I've never seen nothing quite like this. What y'all doing is powerful. And I said, okay. So that gave me fuel and reason enough to keep going.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's talk about, some of the acts that you book. I think you said the granola tree huggers to the dope boys. And
No
we've
doubt.
seen Jeezy, George Clinton, Kendrick Lamar. Why was it important? I mean, that not only, ranges from the type of artist you listen to, but it's really generational. We were talking about George Clinton and a Jeezy. Why was that important when you're booking this and curating this festival?
That was highly important. That was the number one thing because there was a couple of things that bring people together, right? It's music, it's food, and if you got kids, it's typically your kids, right? When you get older, you got kids, all of a sudden your friends are your kids' parents, your kids' parents.
Yep.
But music has this power just to bring all types of people together. And too often, black people are just put in this magical little glass box, right? And if you know one black person, well, you know them all, right? That was kind of always a thing in trying to get these sponsorship dollars and talking to sponsors as far as how you need to program and how you have to talk to these different subcultures of our black community. We are not all the same. But the one thing that I do notice, be it if I go to Jeezy and ask Jeezy if you listen to Sade, or if I go to Gary Clark Jr. and say, do you listen to Sade or Bob Marley? For the most part, regardless of whatever pocket you live in and how you move, our playlists are all pretty similar, right? You think Jeezy just listen to trap music? Jeezy listen to all types of music, right? So I said, so why be so myopic in how we program and think, right? So why can't I have a Damian Marley, have a SZA, and still have Outkast on the same bill? It makes sense. A lot of people say, it'll never work. And it took 5 years for us to really get over the hump. But by putting all these different style artists on our stages, what we
Hmm.
saw is like all different kind of people came together, and it kind of
Right.
created this cultural homecoming of sort. And it was like an infectious, beautiful experience that we planned, but we didn't expect it to be as powerful as that was.
Right. So let me ask a question. You said it took you about 5 years to get over that hump. And I
Mm,
know a lot of individuals would probably after year three say, you know what, I'm losing money. This isn't working. I'm done with it.
year
Why?
one, yeah.
Right. Right. Why did you keep going? I know you said it was powerful, but what was the importance and the significance of you keeping this thing going, and now it's in year 10 and it's thriving?
No doubt. Uh, it was, I get my wife kind of said it to me come year five, because that's another thing that the cats over at Bonnaroo said to me. They were just like, look,
Hmm.
if you can survive for 5 years, you'll make it. I was like, well, what do you mean? I mean, you're going to bleed for 5 years. It's going to take
Hmm.
5 years to kind of create a brand. Well, to create a festival brand that sticks. Um, and I said, well, brother, I ain't got 5 years, and I ain't got $2 million to lose. So how do we ramp up this process? Um, but the crazy thing is, they were 100% right. We bled a little bit for 5 years.
Hmm.
And we bled so bad year five. Honestly, I was like, man, I went to my wife. I let her know the numbers and the situation. I was like, yo, this shit, this is motherfucker right here. Like, we lost some money before. We made
Hmm.
some money before, but I've never lost money like this before. And she really kind of broke it down, because I got one kid, and I got another kid on the way.
Hmm.
And she literally said, all right, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as either one, you're losing money,
Hmm.
or you can look at it as two, you're investing into a brand. So look at the money that was lost as an investment, because every year this thing has grown and doubled in size, right?
Hmm.
And she's absolutely right. So, I mean, we went from 2,500 people to the first one, creeped up to close to 4,000. Then it went to 5,500, then six, then went 9,000. So every year it's growing, but every
Hmm.
year it's also costing us more money.
Right.
So I said, you know what, babe, that is the way to look at this. Look at this more so as an investment into the brand, because it's, as far as its growth, its trajectory,
Hmm.
it's that if I was to step to an investor and show them the growth pattern, they couldn't
Right.
deny it, right? So we kept at it. We kept at it. And we had other things and other program that we was doing that sustained us. Um, but ONEMusic Fest was, it was the brand that we said, you know what, we need to invest uh, more energy and time, our resource into this thing, because it has really proven itself to be a cultural phenom.
Mm. Let me ask. I mean, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I want to talk about the significance of sponsors and sponsorships and brand partners, right? So you're dealing with a festival that is urban focused. And I'm sure, I mean, how easy was it or how difficult was it to gain more sponsors? You said as it grows, it costs more money. Are
No
you
doubt.
able to secure more sponsors because of your success? Do they say, is this a demographic that we want to reach? I just want you to talk about that, dealing with sponsors for something like this. So I think it's important for those that want to get into the live business to understand the significance of brand partnerships.
Right. For us, the brand partnerships was key. Like, we could, again, to reiterate, we could not have done it without brand alignment. The benefit to us is that we had 8 to 9 years of working with brands prior to doing the festival,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always made it my uh, my mission in whenever working with a brand to under promise and way over deliver.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a track record of always doing that with our sponsors. So in selling it into a lot of brands, some didn't see the vision and still came on
Mm-hmm.
at a smaller number, and some dived right in. But we made sure that once they got on site at the festival, and every activation we did for them leading up to the festival was way beyond their expectations. Because, Brandon, you work with brands as well. You work with
Absolutely.
sponsors and activations, um, and I think and we have relationships with individuals. Um, well, I know I had relationships with individuals that would show me both sides of the coin. I would see what they were spending for the general market events, and I see what they were spending for the urban events. And when I say the money that they spend for the general market events eclipse the kind of money that they were spending for urban. I mean, they would do an event for 1,000 people in a general market space and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And then for this event that we may do for 30, 40, 50,000 people, we're fighting for 50, 100, $200,000 for something that may garner the attention of a vast majority of our community. But it was hard for them to see the value. So again, I think it goes, you got to have the tough conversations with the brands. And you really kind of go in, I mean, you go in there with a plan, but you also got to go in there to shake them up a little bit, right? Because if you want to deny the urban influence and reach, you're missing the whole picture. A lot of trends and a lot of brands that become what they are on the backs of urban culture. And you have to sell that into them. And honestly, I'm tired of this sales pitch with those folks, but you do. And sometimes you got to take that smaller check and bring them in to the event for them to realize exactly what it is. So we did that too. We're like, all right, we'll take the small check, and then let me show you what we're capable of doing, what this audience is, and why it's so important. And then from there, you typically have a brand for life.
Unfortunately, that's very true, how you have to take a smaller check for some of our festivals and then hope for the best and continue to over-deliver with them. Let me talk about the festival for a minute in regards to growth, right? So you've been in Atlanta for 10 years. What I've noticed with some other festivals is they'll branch out to different cities and different markets. Why was it important, or why is it important for you to keep your foundation in Atlanta? Or, are you thinking about growing into different markets?
Definitely. So we've been poking our heads around, and we met with several different cities over the course of 3 years.
Okay.
So we are looking to expand. We're definitely looking to expand. But sometimes when you grow too fast, it can be a problem. And we do need financing and funding for growth as well. We're also we're independent. So we don't have the backing of the big boys.
Right.
We did a co-pro agreement with Live Nation for 3 years, and then in 2018 we jumped away. We said, what, let's just do it on our own. And it worked out. At that time we was working out of a Live Nation space. It was Lakewood Amphitheater, and and at that time it was a 1-day festival. Okay. And I wanted it to expand to a 2-day, and they weren't. At that time, it would have been entirely too expensive to produce a 2-day festival in their amphitheater space. Okay. And at the same time, they were dealing with their larger festival, Music Midtown, which was literally the week after ONEMusic Fest. So it was going to be tough for us to grow and expand with that partnership the way we had it in place for those 3 years. So we stepped away, and then that's when we went to a 2-day. And that was probably one of the best things for us, going to that 2-day setup. But as far as growth, we definitely are looking at other cities, but we also don't want to water down the brand. So we're actually thinking of doing one domestic, one stateside city, and then going international as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so let me think. You talked about Music Midtown, but I know there's Afro Punk in Atlanta now. A3C is big in Atlanta. How does ONEMusic Fest kind of differentiate itself from some of these other festivals that, within a X amount of month, 3-month time frame are all existing at once?
Right. So there's overlap. And I think what's great about all three brands is that they're great at what they do. I think Afro Punk is great as far as how they speak to the audience in which they attract. A3C is kind of more of this expo panel, small venue live show experience. So I think there's probably about a 10 to 20% overlap between each one. As far as ONEMusic Fest, I mean, again, it's we're talking 40 to 50,000 people throughout the weekend. And it's a true cultural homecoming experience, man. I mean, you'll see somebody with their 17-year-old daughter, turning up to Kendrick Lamar, and then look to the right, you see a political official over there, with his hat on back, attempting to stage dive. It's a totally different kind of experience. But I think all three have their value and a necessity to the culture as far as how they feed the culture and feeding that their community. So they're all thriving, and I think we're stronger together. You want to see these brands thrive, and create these spaces for folks that look like us. Because quite honestly, there's not enough. And after this quarantine and this crisis here, it may be even tougher.
Let's talk about that. Because we are in a quarantine right now, because we are in the middle of a pandemic, where do you see the live music business going? And you talked about, festivals and events made by us and that are for us. Where do you see, are those types of events going to grow, or are they going to decrease, in your opinion?
I don't know, man. This is tough. This is really tough. I'm fortunate to have weekly calls with a bunch of Black OGs from the festival production space. They own venues. It's about 25 of us. They hop on a call at 7:00 every Thursday, and a lot of them are trying to figure it out. Especially people that own brick and mortars, because we can't predict what the hell's going to happen with this thing.
Right.
You got folks in Michigan fighting to get out in the street and go have beers and haircuts, but then you're looking at the numbers, and the numbers are increasing every day as far as those infected and those dying. So do I think it's going to change the way people move? Definitely. But one thing that won't change is that people want to be entertained, and
Right.
people want the closeness and to be around other people that share the same, values, thoughts, ideas, music. That feeling of exchange and touch is needed. So I think the platform and the format of entertainment and live music and festivals will change some, but I think we'll get to a place of normalcy probably within about a year. But throughout this year, I think people are slowly going to start creeping out a little bit. Maybe it's smaller events. Maybe it's more outdoor events where you're not in confined spaces. But I think it's going to be tough, man, and we're going to have to ride this one out a little bit. But the people that win in moments like this are the creatives. It's the folks that's coming up with ideas and finding new ways to touch and feed their community. So we're doing that every day. Every day we have group calls. And we're just programming different ideas in which we can not only help with, we have this one platform that we call Resources, and that's every Tuesday and Thursday. It's on ONEMusic Fest, IG at 1:00. And we literally just bring on political officials, medical officials, people in entertainment, creatives that have access to resources and information that can help folks during this crisis, be it get to funding, aid, to get to job placement. And we do this 2 days a week. So this is one thing that we're doing. We've done a virtual festival called At the Crib Fest. We had about 50,000 people worldwide tune into that one. That was pretty dope. 18 emerging artists, all performing on their own platform, but we just kind of got together and just pushed it as a collective. So we have about 5 to 6 different concepts, digital concepts that we're going to roll out this year. And for the next couple of months, we just got to watch this thing closely, man, and see how it turns. Yeah.
And do you see yourself outside of the digital experiences you have, maybe late fall, early next year, doing smaller live events leading into the festival next year?
We are. So that's on the horizon as well. So that is something that we're talking about. The awesome thing is one of our sponsors, coincidentally, is Clorox. So we're working with them on some creative ideas. So it's crazy. For the last 3 years, they've been sponsors, always trying to figure out, you pull in Clorox into a festival. How does this work? And then Eureka, here we go with this virus pandemic, and Clorox is still one of our sponsors. And it's like, all right, fellas, it's time to sharpen the pencil. Let's come up with some great ideas so we can kind of feed the folks what they're looking for and keep them safe. So yeah, that's in the plans.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you have for anyone that wants to get into the live music business, particularly now, with everything going on?
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it now.
Stay away.
But what I would say is again, I think the folks that are winning right now are creatives and people that are thinking out of the box. So it's an old saying: if you want to become a billionaire, you need to fix a billionaire problem. So there's a lot of folks right now that's experiencing billion-dollar issues. Think out of the box and how can you solve them, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say I wouldn't deter anyone from not getting into the live music space. But if you decide to jump into that space, now's a great time to start planning based upon just the basic psyche and how people are moving and how this thing may affect people for the coming years. So, but live music as we know it will change some, but for how long, it'll be hard to tell.
Okay. Well, that's the way we're going to close this one. We were here with Jason J. Carter. Jay, thank you so much for being with us this week, man. Much appreciated. Thank you, man. This was episode 4, Live Nation Urban Presents Meet the Founders. We'll be back next week. Same time for episode 5. Thank you again, Jay, and everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
All right, brother. Be safe.
All right. Likewise.